Okay, so first up, we have Mr. Russell Scott, the Time Lord himself and now author. And tonight he'll be presenting the keys to busting busy and unlocking total time freedom. Russell Scott is a business time lord, husband and father who has not always been as clear on his purpose of work as he is now. He believes that time is our most precious resource and is on a crusade to help people make more time for what matters most. After more than 15 years of project management experience, he is a facilitator, public speaker, author and developer of systems that improve people's productivity. And Russell is, as I said, one of the Ultimate Potato authors, and he lives and breathes everything that he speaks about, because at the weekend he was the one that followed the system to the T. I was like, you're my dream, like what is it, like a protege, or it's just, it was amazing. Like, and ever since we finished, even in the time frame that he's delivered everything, it's like, you know, every author should be exactly like this and fit that mold. So please give him a hand, Russell Scott.
Thank you very much. That's a fantastic introduction. Thanks, Natasha, and thanks very much. I'm so proud of the book, which some of you may notice on there. It's Russell Scott and Brandon Scott, the other two son who I interviewed and who wrote a chapter in there now as well. So in my family, we've got two authors, which is so cool. Thanks very much for you guys all coming along as well. And I've got a bit of a challenge for you, or a question if you're up for it. You're here to learn as much as you can tonight, but also, particularly the topic of busy. There's a whole heap of people out there who are too busy to come along tonight. I'll make sure they stand in front. Too busy to come along tonight. So if, as we go through here, there's anybody that you think of that is so flat out busy and they really need to be told about some of this sort of stuff, please let them know about it. Click on the link to the video once that's uploaded, or share what you learned from it with them. Some of you may have known that when you learn something new, if you implement it or teach it to somebody else within 24 hours, you're more likely to remember it. If you don't implement it and teach it within 24 hours, chances are you'll forget 90% of it anyway. So that's a challenge for those of you who are up for it. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to share. There's only so much I can fit within 20 minutes. If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to run through a whole heap of content and share it, and then we've got the other time this evening as well to have questions and answers, anything like that. Feel free to come up and have a chat with me. Is that all good? Yeah. Awesome. All right, so the keys to busting busy. Have any of you actually been busy at all? Sort of. Anybody not busy? Okay, so if you had an extra hour in your day, who would spend it doing work? Any hands up there? A couple, yeah. Who would spend it doing not work? A lot of people, yeah. I put a post, some of you would have seen the post I put on UBS today about, well, if you had this extra hour in the day, what would you spend it doing? It's so important to actually think about that, because if you don't know what you would do and how that is really, really important to you, you're never going to make the extra hour anyway. It all comes down to what your why is. And a lot of you would have heard of that anyway. So, where's this going to go? There we go. A lot of business owners that I deal with find themselves in this situation. They're so flat out, buried under all of the stuff. They're working really long hours. They're maybe not eating that well. Exercise is this thing that they've heard rumours about. Yeah? So they're so bogged down with this sort of stuff. And as the business owner, they're so flat out doing all of the stuff that their staff don't take care of. Particularly if it's a one-person business, but even as the business grows, typically the staff will do their 40 hours a week or whatever they're doing, and then they'll go off and play golf or have time with their family, and the business owner is left to pick up anything else that's left over. For those of you like some facts, excessive working hours, there's probably a pointer on here as well. Sure. No? Excessive working hours can be detrimental to productivity and to well-being through stress and the lack of a work-life balance. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. The figures are also interesting. The average working hours of a business owner, which a lot of you are, is 9 hours a week more than of an employee. So that means there's some people earning way more than 9, but on average that's 9 hours. So a lot of people, 9 hours is more than their working day. So that sort of equates to 6 days instead of 5 days out of the week that you're working. And that's the average. I'm sure that a lot of business owners out there, they feel the weight of that 9 hours or more on their shoulders. They find themselves in a situation where they're staying up late at night and so on. So the facts support this, and working longer hours, what I'm going to do in the conversation today is bust 3 myths that a lot of business owners tell themselves. I'll bust them out of the water. And also, if there's time, I'll also share with you a recent three simple steps to actually enable you to go home an hour earlier tomorrow. Now, some of you in the language tomorrow never comes, but seeing as it's already this time of the day today, it's possible for you tomorrow to actually go home an hour earlier and get everything done that you need to get done. And when you go home, you feel satisfied in what you've actually achieved. How many people go home at the end of the day and you scratch your head, what on earth did I achieve today? Did I get anything done on my list? Has anybody sort of been in a situation like that? Yeah. All right. So what would you do with that extra hour? Most of you have said that you actually spend it on non-work stuff. Might be shopping, sleeping, yeah. Exercise, yeah. Having beer. Yeah. Relaxing with your mates, connecting with people, getting something else done, putting time and effort into writing a book if you feel that you've got one in you, or whatever else it is. It's these non-work things in a lot of cases. A lot of people also in their work environment, they're so flat out at work, they're doing all these number of hours, but they want to get some more money as well, and in order to get more money, they think, okay, well, I've got to put more hours in to be able to generate that money. But as a business owner, do you get paid by how many hours you turn up at work? No, you get paid by the results that you achieve, which I'll get to. Poor people spend time to save money, and wealthy people spend money to save time. I always include like some quotes. Quite often, there are different quotes that resonate with different people. When I'm doing my webinar series, I'll include a bunch of different time-related quotes. Duke Ellington said, "I don't need time, I need a deadline." Deadlines are very, very powerful things. If you're putting a proposal in, for a business, that proposal closes 4:30 on such and such a day, that's a fixed deadline, isn't it? You know you've got to get it in by that time. How many of you have noticed when you're getting ready for a holiday, or someone in your team is getting ready for a holiday, how much more productive are they in that week leading up? It's like, instead of, oh, well, I wonder what that's about, how can we do that all the time? Yeah? And Tim Ferriss, any of you read his book or seen him talk? Most of the slides are a bit more easy to read than this one, and the PDFs will be available if anybody wants to get them as well. Natasha's got those. So it's amazing how someone's IQ seems to double as soon as you give them responsibility and indicate that you trust them. So delegate out. Find the right people, delegate, and then all of it, instead of telling yourself a story about it, oh no, they'll just stuff it up. How do you know? Let them have a go with it and then teach them and guide them. The first time you did it, you probably stuffed it up, didn't you? Let them learn and help them learn. That makes them better employees, sort of thing, doesn't it?
Does that work on your other half as well?
Is she going to be seeing this? No.
It's live stream.
So, what I'm going to be talking about is 3 simple keys. Do you want the complicated solution or the really simple one? Simple one. Good. All right. You're in the way around. Myth number 1. You just don't have enough time. There's not enough time. How many people, oh, I haven't got enough time for this. I wish I did that, but there's not enough time. Bullshit. Can I say that on camera? Sorry. Yeah. Should have checked before, shouldn't I?
Beep.
The Wright brothers. Have they had their invention? They were the first ones to pioneer it. Has the manned flight aeroplane that took trips that used to take weeks down to hours, has that sort of had a fundamental impact and changed the world as we know it? Sort of has. They were in their early 30s when they achieved that. So if you take off the amount of time that they had in school and so on, it doesn't take that. They achieved a fundamental world-changing thing in a few short years, a decade and a half, something like that. The gentleman in the middle, David Warren, he wasn't that old when he invented the black box. Someone was colourblind along the way, I think. It's actually bright orange. I've included these two, Wi-Fi and the black box flight data recorder. both of which were invented in Australia. For those of you who think, oh, the best ideas come from overseas, no, they come from here as well. We've got a huge wealth of great ideas and innovations in Australia. David Warren, fisherman's band, invented the black box flight data recorder. And when he invented that, he was 31, 32 years old as well. Wi-Fi, I don't know the dates for those, but it's fundamentally changed the world. When I was a kid, I used to grow up and my family would sit down and we'd watch The Wonderful World of Disney in the evening. Some of you might remember that. Any of you too young to remember that will probably have seen Disney and Pixar movies, so you know what Disney's about. When I grew up, if my parents had said to me, okay, well, we're going to go to Disneyland for a holiday, it's like, wow, that's great. Now, if I say to my kids, they'll say, oh, is there free Wi-Fi? Can you turn the Wi-Fi on your phone, Dad? We're driving down the highway. It's like, live in England, I don't know. It's fundamentally changed the world. So, who here wants to change the world? Anybody?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased. I didn't know how many hands would go up. I knew mine would. For those of you who didn't put your hand up then, who wants to change your corner of the world? Do you want to change your corner of the world? And anybody still hasn't put their hand up? No, we're all good. And anybody who doesn't matter what I say, you're not going to put your hand up? Yeah, gotcha. Alrighty. See, this is a fundamental part of it. You've got to have fun with it. Some of them are saying in the introductions as well, have fun with what you do. Work's not supposed to be boring. I don't want to do homework, I want to do home play. So I want to have fun with this sort of stuff. You do have time to change the world. There is time to change the world. And you've just got to make some changes in terms of how you spend your time. What time did I start?
You've got 10 minutes.
10 minutes, mate. Good. I need more time for work. It's not about attendance at work. Some jobs get paid for turning up, but fundamentally it's all about the results that you get. And say, for example, you've got someone working for you and they do 40 hours and they get some results for that 40 hours in a week. What if they knew how to do that job and get all of those same results in 4 hours? If they told you, you'd probably ramp their hours back, wouldn't you? If there were 10 people in that team and they told you, you'd probably fire the other 9, wouldn't you? How's that model stuffed? How can you turn things around so that you reward them for the results, whether they're in the office or not, whether they're at your premises or not? It needs to be a fundamental shift. So it's got to be about the results that you get and not about attendance. Myth number 3. There's only one person. I'm the only person in my business who I can trust to get it right. Have you heard people say that? I know I'm not. I'm not the best person in the world at everything. If a business owner says, oh, no, but they're just going to stuff it up, I'll have to do it myself. And then the people will go off and play golf and the business owner ends up working really, really long hours. That model is unsustainable because as the business grows, there's just not enough hours to do it. So the business owner that thinks that they have to be superhuman is fooling themselves. You've got to switch that round. You can find people. I mean, Justin, I've got your book, and is it okay if I ask you a question?
Fire away.
You're running a successful locksmith business.
Yeah, I hope so.
Are you the? Yeah. Well, I see you on the TV.
Yep.
Are you the best locksmith in the world?
No.
You don't have to be, do you?
No.
No. And if and within your business, there's business development and there's marketing and internet and all of these other sorts of things. And do you outsource a bunch of those things?
I do.
Well done. Because you know that you're going to specialise into the things that you're good at and get someone else. There's always, any aspect of your business, there'll be someone else out there. Jamie Oliver, anybody sort of heard of that guy?
Yeah.
A few books and things like that. Is he, would it be fair to say he's not the best chef in the world, is he?
No.
Yeah. So, but he's probably the best marketed one. The PR people and all that sort of stuff. But you don't have to be the best in the world. You just got to be able to bring people in. You can always find someone to do something in your business that they can do it better, quicker and cheaper than you can. And if you don't enjoy doing it anyway, then get them to do it. It's so important. Even Superman outsourced his publicity to Lois Lane and his photography to Jimmy Olsen, didn't he? Any questions at this point? Cool.
No, sorry.
All right. So business owners quite often find themselves in this situation. So who would like to find out how you can actually finish your work and get home an hour early tomorrow and be satisfied in what you achieved and have that whole extra hour to be able to do with as you wish?
Yep.
Give it to
Cool.
us.
Yeah. Everybody? Okay, good. All right. How are we on time?
Really good.
Good. Is that clock on there the one that matches? Oh, maybe it is.
See what do you
One
mean?
is left.
He's just.
Let's clock.
Don't worry, you've got time.
It's on the front of the book, and my kids gave it to me. I'm very proud.
Awesome. It's great.
So, 3 steps for getting home early. Number 1 is like, what's up, Doc? If you had, think of an appointment that you absolutely know you would meet, you would keep it, you would definitely be there. Maybe your dentist, maybe a doctor, maybe date night with your partner, or whatever it is, parole officer, I don't know. Think of an appointment that you would definitely keep. Now think of what time you would typically be leaving work tomorrow. Take off an hour and find an appointment in your calendar for that earlier appointment. That early appointment. Just call it an appointment, and it's even more important than that one that you know, if it was there, you would definitely keep it. So you block that in your calendar, and anybody who looks at your calendar and needs to see what you're up to, if you've got people in your team, they would have visibility. They know, okay, well, you're leaving that hour earlier. So you lock that in as an immovable appointment. Step 2 is you figure out what's job number 1. Has anybody got like more than a couple of things that they're supposed to do tomorrow? 100? A long list, okay? Now in that long, huge list of things that you could do tomorrow, is it possible that there's a whole heap of them that won't get done? Yeah? All right, so we're agreed on that fact. So what you do with this step is you think of what is the single one most important job that you have to get done tomorrow. That if you didn't get it done, you'd be stressing about it on your way home and everything like that. So what's that one? And if 2 or 3 come up, pick the one most important one. And you know which one it is already. So that's job number 1. That is the one that you're going to get done. And you know that there's a whole bunch of the rest of them that won't get done anyway, so nothing changes, they won't get done, that's all cool. So schedule rules. You put into your calendar a slot of time when you're going to do that job. Job number 1, when you are going to complete it. If you think, say if you're looking at it for tomorrow morning, if you were going to normally leave work at 5 o'clock, I say 5 o'clock, I don't know what time you normally would leave work, but 5 o'clock is a good place to start. So if you normally would leave work at 5 o'clock, bring it back to 4 and say you're going to leave at 4 o'clock. That's that immovable appointment, you have to leave by then. So how long is it between when you get into the office in the morning, get into work, and that 4 o'clock? How much time have you got in there? If that like 8, 9 hours, whatever, if you're an early starter, or 6 hours or whatever, how many hours have you got there? And how much of that time is job number 1 worth? Probably not worth all of the time, because there'll be a few other things you need to take care of as well. But say for example, if you got 6 hours before this immovable appointment, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to allocate 3 hours to this job number 1 because it's important, and then anything else you get done in the day is a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
So block out the 3 hours in your calendar for when you're going to do things. How many of you actually book time in your calendar for yourself? And how many of you have given control of your calendar to other people? They book time in your calendar and you're doing all sorts of stuff for them, and yeah, it's a common thing. So many people out there don't book time in their calendar for themselves. So as it gradually fills up, it's all these other people booking time in your calendar, booking appointments with you, and that doesn't leave any time for you to get your stuff done. And quite often with business development and working on the business instead of in it, your stuff is really, really important. And working in the business is quite often things that you can outsource to other people. So you've got your calendar, you've got the immovable appointment at 4 o'clock, you've blocked out the 3 hours. What I suggest with that is block out a 2-hour chunk and then another 1-hour chunk. Because if you slog away at something for too long, your productivity does drop off, as the statistics were showing. If you break it into 2 chunks, break it into 2 chunks, you get a bunch of work done on it, and then you have a break. How many of you recognise when you come back to something after a bit of a break, could be an hour or so, or the following day, or whatever else, You look at it with fresh eyes and you notice stuff. And then you're able to make it better, aren't you? And if you also apply that, then you work for 2 hours, then you give it to somebody else to look after and have a check over it. It's like writing the book. I write the book and whatever, and then give it to the editor and the publisher, and they check it over and so on. So you give it to someone else, then you go off and have a lunch break, because it is so important. I've got the lunch break in here, wherever your lunch break is. Get away from the desk, get away from the office, go get some fresh air, some sunshine, something to eat, drink, whatever. Your productivity drops the longer you stay there. It's not about the hours, it's about the results. You want to get better results, break it down into the different chunks. So you've got a chunk up here where you're going to get most of the job done, job number 1 done. A chunk after where you can take on board the feedback from the other people that you have a look at and have a look at it. And then shortly after lunch, you've actually got that job done. You need to be really clear on how will you know when it's finished, how will you know when it's good enough. And certainly we did that a lot with the book. Quite often people have no idea when it's good enough other than the time has come. If you're writing a proposal for a tender or something like that, it's good enough when the date comes. It's like students studying for an exam. How do you know when you studied enough? Oh, well, the exam just started. There has to be a better way, doesn't there? If you've got one of these deadlines, like there's the quote before, if there's a deadline in your calendar for, I must be finished by such and such a date, you can either let them set the deadline, 4:30 on a Friday when the tenders are due, or you can set your own deadline earlier than that and say, okay, well, if I'm going to have a deadline, I'll work to that, and that buys me some time and opportunity. Who wants more time and opportunity? Who wants more control over what's happening? Do this stuff. Are there any questions? Cool. Like I said, thanks very much for your attention and your participation. I'm around afterwards as well. If anybody got any questions, come let me know. Thanks very much.